Well, after a crazy 2020, we're going to open it up with a bunch of playoff meaningful games this week 17. All right, welcome into a new episode of the Zero Technique Football Podcast. I'm your co-host, Ryan Stern. Joined with me, as always, is Derek Mountain. How's it going, Derek?
I am ready to go for Week 17. The extra playoff spot, I think, has made it a lot juicier than the past. I was a little upset when it initially happened, the rule change, because I like the two buys. But I think it's rightfully so. The one seed gets rewarded a little more. And now we're seeing like the AFC. And even the 7th seed in the NFC is undecided, but it's going to be a wild weekend.
Yeah, you look and there's really only one team that is benefiting from a Week 17 with the seventh playoff spot and playing for a chance for that seventh spot, which would be the Chicago Bears. Otherwise, all of the other teams would have been eliminated already, I believe. And in the AFC, I mean, you got there would have been 4 teams vying for 2 spots instead of 4 teams vying for 3 spots. So it's making it a little bit more interesting over there. And so we're going to open up with a little bit of news. Obviously, there's a lot going on this weekend, and what we even saw last weekend. And then we're also going to break down every single matchup that has a playoff implication on the line. So the first bit of news that I wanted to get into before we did our breakdowns is the Cleveland Browns, what's going on with them, and the COVID-related issues that they're going through, and what they had to deal with last week. And I mean, they were out 4 wide receivers, 2 starting linebackers, and you could see that had a major impact on this team, and they lost what would have clinched a playoff spot for them. And they lose a huge game to the Jets, and now they're still not even practicing this week as COVID seems to be running rampant within the organization.
Yeah, it's not ideal in Cleveland. It's they're about making it as hard as it could possibly be for them. I mean, it reminds me of the Ravens, what they went through about a month ago when they 10 straight days of cases. Now, it's not nearly as drastic as that, but there's the ripple effect. It obviously affected the Jets game. It's going to affect the Steelers game. And they're fortunate. The Steelers won last week, and it would have been a de facto AFC North championship game, but I think it's almost better that it's not, because the Steelers are electing to rest a lot of their guys. Now, if you remember, they had to rearrange their bye week because of the Titans, and they had it at week 4. And they have been beat up, to say the least. They have definitely ran out of some gas, starting 11-0. Their offense has lost a lot of juice. The second half against the Colts was really the first sign of life we've seen from this offense in probably 5 games.
Absolutely.
So, much needed rest for the Steelers, and I think it's definitely a blessing in disguise for the Browns, because full strength versus full strength, I don't know if they're winning that game.
Yeah, and we see that earlier today, 2 more players tested positive. Malcolm Smith, who's another linebacker, going down, and tight end Harrison Bryant, who both of us are actually pretty big on. We love his athleticism.
Oh, yeah.
So they're both going to be out this weekend. The wide receivers did come off of the list. They were only on as close contacts. So Jarvis Landry, Rashard Higgins, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Kadero Hodge are going to be able to be in the lineup this weekend. Is that going to be enough for Cleveland to to really put a damper into probably a well-rested Pittsburgh Steelers team this week.
Yeah, I mean, Tomlin's going to coach that game to win. It's just not going to be the players that they want.
Right.
But last week was discouraging against the Jets. You hope it's a one-off. I just think the game got away from Stefanski when you watch it. I mean, they dropped back 53 times with practice squad receivers.
Look at what happened with Austin Hooper. I mean, you look at the stat line and you see, oh, wow, Austin Hooper had 7 catches for 71 yards. That's a pretty decent game. But what you don't see from looking at that stat line is that he should have had 10 catches for over 120 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, I mean, Jamarcus Bradley was there. He had the most receptions among the receivers. He had 5 for 60. And what we've talked about, what I think makes Stefanski a front runner for Coach of the Year is his ability to adapt. We saw it in the Titans game where he came out and he said, we're a really good running team, but they have such a poor secondary where I'm not afraid to sling it with Baker Mayfield back there. And he had 4 touchdowns, should have been 5 in the first half, and they went on to win that game. And I think he did something similar against the Jets where he knew that they're much more susceptible in their pass defense than their run defense. Their D-line's pretty stout. They're top 10 in DVOA in run defense. So I think that was a matchup he liked, was their receivers and tight ends against their pass defense, but it was just guys who literally have never gotten reps this year. Baker was not nearly as comfortable as he has been. Their offensive line struggled a lot. And Chubb and Hunt had a combined 9 carries in the first half. That can't happen. Yeah. If you're the Cleveland Browns, that cannot happen in that game against the Jets. I understand the matchup he was trying to exploit, but you got to understand what got you there.
And especially against the Jets, where, I know that over the past 6 weeks, they've actually been above average against the run, but it's not a team that is going to extend a lead and just pull away. You have to remain true to who you are and continue to run the ball because, like I said, it's going to work eventually. That offense and that line is too good for the Jets to just contain the entire game. So that game plan really shocked me. I was watching the Giants Ravens game for the majority of the 1 o'clock window, but I was able to flip back and forth, and I was just shocked at what I was watching.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think the Browns beat the Steelers, right?
Yeah, and now you also have the narrative of Myles Garrett versus Mason Rudolph,
of course.
part 2, and I really, really hope that doesn't overshadow the rest of the game.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns have a chance to do something special. They don't have to worry about other scenarios. They win and they're in.
Yeah. All right. So we'll continue with the narrative, or with that game, since it is part of the 1 o'clock window. Like I said, we're going to break down all of the matchups that have a playoff spot or a bye week on the line. So the Cleveland Browns are in the playoffs with a win or a Colts loss or a Titans loss plus a Ravens win, plus an Indianapolis win, plus a Miami win. So there's a couple different ways that they can get in, even if Indianapolis wins, but they just need to focus on doing their part, because if they win, they don't need the additional help. And if there's one thing that I can pretty much be sure of, is that they're going to be the more motivated team in this game.
Yeah.
And they need to come out from the opening kickoff and prove that they are the more motivated team, because if anything gets into their heads, I mean, this is a Cleveland Browns team that hasn't been blessed with a winning culture over the past 2 decades, and then you don't want any doubt to creep into your head that, oh no, here we go again with a potential Browns collapse. So that first quarter is going to be very important.
Yeah, I mean, they've done so much good this year, and it can literally all be tarnished in the last 2 weeks. And I don't think that is hyperbole. You would seem like a lock going into week 16. You lose to the Jets, and then you lose to a practice squad version of the Steelers. That is just the most Browns way to not get in the postseason this year. And I think it's a lot different with Stefanski and GM Andrew Berry at the helm. I mean, they've proved it for the majority of the year, and they have an opportunity to prove that last week was a one-off, that they roll over the Steelers, they get their wild card spot, and they're ahead of schedule. Because if they make the playoffs, I mean, anything that happens after that is gravy. I don't really expect them to win a game. Maybe they do, but beyond that, I don't expect that much. But no one was expecting them to be in any postseason talk, let alone actually be in the postseason at this point. They get in there, that's awesome. They don't, though. That is quite a way to not make the postseason.
Yeah, because you look at last year, and last year the Browns were the it team of the offseason. Everyone was picking them to have a chance at the the AFC North or a wild card spot. And that you have Baker coming off of one of the better rookie seasons we'd ever seen from a quarterback, and he can only get better. And it didn't. It got much worse. And I think the fact that they had regressed so much from Baker's rookie year left a lot of doubt in people's minds that this was a team ready to then jump back into that playoff conversation. Now I know that the Steelers have come out and said that Roethlisberger isn't playing. Have they made any other announcements so far about any other starters who will not be playing? Because I hadn't heard.
So Hayden's not going to play. I think Stephon Tuitt and Cam Hayward are not going to play. I doubt the 3-0 linemen, Pouncey, Villanueva, and DeCastro play. Just going off that sentiment, there's no point. But yeah, so I expect a lot of the vets to sit out, even a TJ Watt maybe. I didn't see his name, but maybe on a limited basis. There's just no point.
Give him a series or two just to stay fresh.
Yeah, exactly. I don't really see the point because they're obviously not going out there to try to win. But yeah, as you said, maybe just give some reps. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of like the Bills situation. They've been really quiet, but there's almost no point of return if you bench a couple guys. You get worried about the injury factor with other guys. For example, like a Josh Allen, if you play him but you bench other guys around him, does that hurt him? So if you're the Steelers, I think they're probably erring on the side of caution. They don't really care about the 2 or 3 seed because they just haven't had a buy-in forever.
So right now the Browns are actually 9-point favorites, and the line is set at 42. I mean, I'll pick the Browns to win. I mean, 9 points is a lot for a really well-coached team, even if it's backups. I would, if I had to take, I'd probably stay away from it at all costs. But if I had to, I'd probably take the 9 points. And because I also would like the under in this game as well. When you have an under, a line set at only 42, you want as many points in your back pocket as possible.
Yeah, I agree with your sentiment. I'd probably take the points, but I just would stay away. I mean, until that second half against the Colts, this offense was a mess for the Steelers. I really don't know if there will be that much of a drop-off with Mason Rudolph. And I know that's a crazy thing to say, but I think there's no James Conner as well, but they don't even try to run the ball at this point. I feel like they're going to muck it up and make it a classic AFC North game, a 7 to 10 point victory.
All right, so let's move on to the next 1 o'clock game with playoff implications, and that is going to be right here in my backyard with the Giants hosting the Cowboys. And it's pretty simple with this one. you win the game and Washington loses at night, you get to host a playoff game at either 6-10 or 7-9. And so we have the Giants, who are right now sitting at 5-10, knowing that there's a chance that they can host a playoff game next week.
It has been a tale of a few seasons for the Giants, starting out 1-7, clawing to 5-7. Joe Judge creating some belief in that locker room, and Daniel Jones making remarkable glimpses and showing real progress. And then he got hurt, and it just hasn't been the same. I mean, Colt McCoy miraculously beat Seattle. They thrust Daniel Jones back in the lineup against Arizona. He just didn't look the same. He still doesn't really look right. They flip-flop back and forth between him and Colt McCoy. But, I mean, we were talking about before the show. If that's the version of Daniel Jones you get on Sunday, I think it's going to be a tough game against Dallas. And even if they do win and Washington loses tonight, I don't see them beating Tampa Bay at a home playoff game unless Daniel Jones is back to what we saw during that winning streak.
Yeah, and I know right now I don't think a lot of people are, or a lot of fans of either team are worried about who they're going to be seeing in the first round of the playoffs. But it's all about getting there, and I know there's a lot of negativity and positivity both ways about, all right, what's actually better for the team. Is it better for the team to lose the game because you know that the chance of winning an actual playoff game is so drastically low? Is it better off for the team to lose and get a better playoff spot, draft spot? Because, I mean, the difference is going to be most likely picking at either at number 19 or in the top 8.
Yeah, but I don't know. You set a precedent for years to come when you win your division. I get the NFC East is the laughing stock of the NFL, whatever. Make your joke, but when you construct a team, you construct a team to win your division because you're playing everybody twice, and that's your easiest path to the playoffs. You worry about the wild card stuff later. But if you're the Giants, you don't – I hate that mindset. You try to win the games in front of you. You try to create that winning culture. And you get a guy like Daniel Jones' playoff experience. If you don't win, you don't win. But that stuff is invaluable. It's so important, especially how young he is.
You realize that with now the Eagles being the only team that cannot win the division, where they're going to continue the streak since I think it's 2000 that there will not be a back-to-back NFC division champion. Since in 20 years, no team has won back-to-back divisions.
I mean, say what you want about the NFC East, but there's some parity there. Every team seems to make it interesting every year.
Yeah, sure, we'll call it parity. It's just alternating suckiness. I mean, there's obviously been some good years.
I think
you have the two Giants. Well, the 3 Super Bowl appearances for the Giants, the 2 wins. You have the Eagles win. You have a couple late in the playoffs runs for the Eagles. You have the Romo and Dez Cowboys who made some runs. So there's obviously been some success. But the fact that
Washington and New York they're overachieving this year. I mean, I said 3 weeks ago, a lot of people expected both of them to land in the top 5 in the draft, and they both are playing for a spot in the playoffs. As funny as that is, I mean, there have been different points in the season where both of those teams were viable teams, and I just think the consistency isn't there. I think there are some issues at quarterback that both teams have to work out, but I mean, they're 2 well-coached teams. Say what you want about them, but Rivera and Judge have done a very good job in both spots this year.
So we're looking at this particular game, and when you look at how both teams have played over the past couple weeks, most people are going to say, well, this is the Cowboys game to lose. We've seen them play much better over the past couple of weeks. And to be honest, the biggest difference is how they've played defensively. Over the first 12 weeks of the season, they were among the bottom 3 in almost all aspects of defensive football, and they've actually been pretty decent on that side of the ball over the past couple weeks. To me, that's what the Giants need to exploit, where the Cowboys were weakest earlier on, and it starts with the run game. And when the Giants were successful in the middle of the season, it was largely on the shoulders of Wayne Gallman. And we've seen them over the past couple of weeks go away from giving Gallman the bell cow work. We've seen more Dion Lewis. We've seen more Alfred Morris. And I swear to God, if I see Dion Lewis return another kickoff, I'm going to blow a gasket, because he fumbles one every single freaking week. There is not a week that, and sometimes the Giants recover it, but there is not a week that goes by that Dion Lewis doesn't fumble a kickoff or a punt in some fashion, and it drives me insane. So I would love to see them establish the run early on with Wayne Gallman, because I think the way that you stifle the Cowboys offense, and they obviously have the better weapons when you look at the run game with Zeke, when you look at the passing game with Cooper, Lamb, and Gallup, they're obviously more talented at those positions. The Giants obviously have a better defense than Dallas, but the Giants need to make sure that they're the ones who determine the pace of this game if they have any shot at winning.
Yeah, definitely. I think the game comes down to the trenches. Dallas has won the last 3, but you look at their opponents. It's Cincy, a depleted San Fran, and then Philly last week. And to me, Philly was in complete control over the first couple of possessions in that game. They get out to the 14-3 lead. They're running the ball nicely with Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders, and they're establishing a lot on offense. They have the long bomb to Deshaun Jackson. Everything looks great. They scored 3 points the rest of the game, and to me, Doug Peterson did what he always does. He got impatient. He got away from the run game. If you're the Giants, as you just said, you have to stay committed to the run game, and I think if Daniel Jones is healthy and he adds that element of running, that's what makes him really good, is he's at +1 in the run game that defenses can't account for. And this is still not a Dallas defense I'm fearing to play against. Yes, they've played better, but look at their opponents. I mean, look at the quarterbacks they played against. I think it's a little bit of a different barometer going off of. Giants are getting 3 points in this game just because of how each of these teams have played the last 3 weeks. Giants have lost 3 straight. Dallas has won 3 straight. But it's a lot closer than that. I think it's more of a pick 'em. And it's as you said, the Giants have to win in the trenches. Get pressure on Andy Dalton. When he's in the pocket like last week against the Eagles, he looks really good because of those weapons. But if you get him moving, you get him uncomfortable with happy feet, I think it's way more advantageous for the Giants. So those are the 2 matchups I'm looking at.
And so right now, the line that I saw right before that I pulled up right before we started was Dallas was giving 2, and the over/under was set at 44.5. As much as it kills me, I'm going to take the Cowboys. I just think that the momentum that they have been on over the past couple weeks, along with the fact that I don't think Daniel Jones is close to 75%, let alone 100%, are going to be the main reasons why Dallas wins. But I do actually think that there will be points put up. So I do like the over in this game, over 44.5.
I will go with the Giants. I will go against what both these teams have looked like the past 3 weeks, and I think it's 2 extremes that aren't necessarily true. Dallas isn't as good as they're playing because of the opponents they're playing, and I don't think the Giants are as bad as they've been playing. I think it's as you said. It comes down to the health of Daniel Jones. And am I willing to bet on that? like my actual money, of course not. I would not bet on this game just because of the health of Daniel Jones. But I do think he's 3 weeks out of the injury. I do think he'll be as healthy as he's been the past couple weeks. So I'm willing to bet on the Giants to win that game because I still don't believe in the Dallas defense. I think Joe Judge is going to look at that Philadelphia game and say, I have to stay committed to the run. I have to keep my defense fresh so they could get after Andy Dillon. And then I have to give my offense some rhythm and help Daniel Jones out. So I like the Giants in a low-scoring game.
Oh, from your lips to God's ears. All right, the final 1:00 game that has playoff implications is we probably don't need to spend a whole lot of time on this game. Is the Ravens at the Bengals?
Yeah.
The Ravens are in with a win.
Yeah.
And right now, the Ravens may be the team that nobody wants to play.
Yep.
They are one of the hottest teams in football. Averaging over 33 points a game over the last 4. The defense is starting to get a little healthier, especially in the secondary, and we're starting to see glimpses of 2019 Lamar Jackson, and J.K. Dobbins just offers a different dynamic to that running game than they even had last year. And Gus Edwards is still just the tank that nobody knows where the NFL missed with a Gus Edwards. I mean, this will be as easy a pick for me. Right now, the Ravens are a 13-point favorite on the road. The line is set at 44. I like the Ravens to win and cover, and I'll take the over.
Me as well. I will mimic all your picks there. The Ravens have played outstanding football the last month. They're the sleeping giant in the AFC. I mean, the Chiefs and the Bills are far and away the 2 biggest contenders in the AFC, but you don't want to play the Ravens, especially in January football. If they have to go to Buffalo, Pittsburgh, they're going to lean on that run game. And their run game and their offense is a nightmare to game plan for in a week. And the way they've been clicking the last month with Greg Roman, they're incorporating a lot more jet sweep stuff, inverted read with Lamar Jackson, and J.K. Dobbins he's just been taking off, and that offensive line's been great. That's a team you do not want to play against. And right now, as a 5 or 6 seed, if they were to win and they go to Buffalo or they go to Pittsburgh.
If they end up in Buffalo, that's going to be maybe the best wild card game we'll ever see.
Absolutely. I mean, that's 2 completely different teams. One team wants to air it out. The other team wants to keep it on the ground. But, like, you're talking about 2 of the most exciting guys in the game, in Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, and the seeding goes out the window. I mean, there are no fans this year. Right. I think it helps the Chiefs a lot. It helps the Packers a lot to rest that week. But seeding goes out the window. There's no fans this year, no really advantage to the home field aspect. You do not want to play the Ravens. I mean, they have looked great. And in terms of talent, that defense hasn't necessarily played up to their caliber, and they have the past month or so. But the talent on that defense is scary too.
There's one big reason why I don't think they have, and it'll be a reason why they are going to be as dangerous. That's Calais Campbell. I mean, look at the couple weeks that Calais Campbell wasn't there, and it just was not the same Ravens defense that we saw the majority of the year. He is such an integral part of that team, and like I said, both of us said, this is a team that, and I guarantee you, Buffalo is praying that Baltimore ends up with the 5 seed, because they don't want to see any part of Baltimore.
Absolutely not.
You look at even the other 2 division winners, because in the South, you're going to have it'll either be the Titans or the Colts. I would pick the Ravens, especially when home field isn't going to be as big of a thing in this year's playoffs. I would pick the Ravens to beat either the Colts or the Titans, which kills me because the Colts were my preseason pick. to win the AFC. And then in the North, they're going to, if they end up matched up against Pittsburgh. I mean, how do you not pick Baltimore again? I mean, they kept it close against Pittsburgh with third and fourth stringers.
That's two teams trending in different directions.
Yeah.
I mean, get excited about Pittsburgh last week. I'm still not sold on that offense at all. They won some deep one-on-one matchups with Deontay Johnson's touchdown, Juju Smith-Schuster's touchdown in the second half. But when it doesn't work, like we saw against Cincinnati and Washington, it looks so bad. They still can't run the football. It's just not sustainable. I still don't believe in the Steelers as of this moment.
No. All right. So now we'll move on to the slate of 4 o'clock games that have playoff implications, and boy, do we have a bunch of them. So we'll start off with the Rams, and they will be hosting the Cardinals. The Rams clinch with a win or a Bears loss, so they can back themselves. They can sneak in the back door of the playoffs even without a win. The Cardinals will clinch with a win. So the biggest thing that we have to talk about here is the Rams offense. They're going to be without Jared Goff. They're going to be without Cooper Kupp. And this sort of feels like they're going to be resting their laurels on rooting for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, I mean, John Wolford hasn't logged a snap in the NFL. What a daunting task for the Rams offense and Sean McVay. But, I mean, look, I still think they can win this game because they're going against a hampered Kyler Murray. He has a leg injury, and they weren't even sure if he was going to play going into this week. They elected this week that he will play. But, look, I mean, that Rams defense is still really, really good despite how they've played the past few weeks. They're just going to have to be way more committed to the run, and they don't have Cam Akers again. It's going to be all Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown.
No, Darrell Henderson was just put on the IR.
So you're telling me it's a Malcolm Brown show on Sunday?
That's right. I didn't even mention Darrell Henderson. Yeah, it's the Malcolm Brown and Robert Wood show. You're going to see a bunch of jet sweeps to Robert Woods. Maybe even to Van Jefferson. They're going to have to utilize that because Malcolm Brown just is not at the point of his career where he can handle being a bell cow.
No, and I think it's going to be all boot, easy manufactured touches for John Wolford, and he's a guy who can run. Sean McVay compared him to Doug Flutie. He's a little guy. He's about 5'10", but he could scoot back there. But he does not have the arm of a Jared Goff. A lot of people give Jared Goff a lot of flack, and rightfully so. He had one of the worst interceptions you'll ever see across the field last week to Andre Diggs. And that's what Jared Goff will do to you when he is not comfortable. But John Wolford is not Jared Goff. He's a very limited thrower. Let's just put it that way. I still think he'll be able to run and contribute some first downs when he's moving outside the pocket and Sean McVay's offense, but points are going to be really hard for them to come around, especially without Henderson. I didn't realize that he was placed in the IR. No Cam Akers. I mean, these are huge hits.
Yeah, it's been 644 days since John Wolford took a meaningful snap, and that was in the Alliance of American Football with the Arizona Hotshots.
Wow. I'm rooting for him. I mean, that would be like an unbelievable story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I think people would be calling for Kingsbury's head if he somehow lost this game. But look, I do think the Rams can shut down this Cardinals offense, especially if Kyler Murray's not going to be able to run.
So one of the shows that I listen to on a regular basis is the Fantasy Footballers podcast, and they're based in Arizona, and so they're all three of them are Cardinals fans, And they were saying that when they started talking about this game, saying the Rams are going to be starting John Wolford, which means one thing: it's going to be awful to be a Cardinals fan on Monday when they lose to John Wolford.
I think everyone's been kind of behind the curve. I don't know if Kingsbury's up to snuff for the NFL. I mean, we talked about, I think he was he was pretty underqualified. He didn't really, his resume didn't match an NFL coach, an aspired coordinator, an up and coming college coach. He was none of that. He
had a losing record his last 2 seasons in college.
He got fired. Football. He got fired in the Big 12. I mean, he was this flashy offensive guru. He's got the look down. He's got the bachelor pad in Arizona. But come on. I mean, he's had some short-term success, but it has caught up to him. His air raid has gone stale. I think gone stale very quickly. He's become very predictable. Yep. He doesn't really use his personnel that well. And you're going against this Rams defense. I think the over-under is like 39, right?
I saw 40.5.
Okay. Oh, I like the under there. I mean, that's a really low number, and I still love the under there. I think there's going to be a 20-17, 17-14 kind of game.
Yeah, it's going to be a really bad offense against a mediocre defense, against an injured offense, against a really good defense. So yeah, this may be one of those 1st to 17 wins.
Yeah.
So I do like the under right now. The Cardinals are 3-point favorites, and that's solely based on the fact that they have their starting quarterback playing and the Rams don't.
Yeah.
I'll take the 3 points and the under.
Yeah, I was gonna say I actually feel like the Rams might win this outright. They have not looked good, but I'm willing to bet on that defense.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big leap because we don't know what we're going to see from John Wolford. He hasn't taken an NFL snap, but I just don't believe in Cliff Kingsbury in this spot. So I'll go with the Rams outright in the under.
Yep, as will I. All right, the next game is the Packers heading over to the so is it still called Soldier Field?
Yeah.
Yeah. I know they revamped it. I couldn't remember if they kept the name. So they'll head over to Soldier Field, and the Bears, with the fact that the Cardinals did lose to the 49ers, they can also sneak in the back door with a win or a Cardinals loss. Also, the Green Bay Packers have something to play for because they will clinch the number 1 seed and a bye with a win or a Seattle loss. To me, this is actually the most intriguing game of the weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, both teams have equal motivation to play.
Yep.
I mean, you look at Green Bay, how daunting of a task is it that they get a bye and then they only have to win 2 games at Lambeau Field to get to the Super Bowl? I mean, I like their odds if they clinch up the 1 seed this week.
Yeah, and as I had said a couple weeks ago, with the fact that there are either no fans or very limited fans in the stands, one of the true home field advantages is going to be Lambeau Field.
The frozen tundra.
And the fact that Aaron Rodgers is so comfortable playing in that temperature. And we saw what he was able to do in blizzard, especially in the first half when the snow was still actually coming down against Tennessee. And it just does not faze him at all.
And they finally deployed A.J. Dillon. I was waiting, and I didn't expect it to be of that usage. I mean, he had
I think
carries?
A lot of it had to do with Aaron Jones getting nicked up early in the game. I think we only saw 10 carries from Aaron Jones, but he still had a pretty decent game.
Yeah, and then A.J. Dillon, I mean, the perfect conditions for a back like A.J. Dillon. He might as well be a poor man's Derrick Henry in terms of his downhill running. I mean, that is just – they can attack you with A.J. Dillon with a light box. You load up the box and you go against Aaron Rodgers. It's just a recipe for disaster if you're going against them.
And then we look at the Bears, and the Bears have quietly been one of the hotter teams in the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
Ever since Mitchell Trubisky regained his spot as the starting quarterback. David Montgomery has been unbelievable. He's now in fantasy up to the RB7 for the entire year. This was someone who was taken outside of the top 30 in fantasy drafts amongst running backs. It's an offensive line that has come together over the course of the season, and Trubisky has been taking care of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest difference was when Bill Lazor assumed the play calling duties over Matt Nagy. I mean, I think Nagy was an absolute mess for this offense. It was a lot of 11 personnel, didn't really play Kmet as much as they should have. Bland running game. Now it's been a way more outside zone stuff. It looks a lot like McVay and Kubiak's outside zone scheme where Trubisky can now roll out. He's booting. He's using his legs. That's where he's at his best. He's a good athlete. That's the way they should have been using him from the start. I'm not going to pound the table for Trubisky, but he can get it done. They've averaged over 30 a game the past 4 weeks since their winning streak started. This is a decent offense. They have weapons. Kmet's been coming along nicely. Jimmy Graham's still a good red zone target. Allen Robinson.
Just wanted to say something about that. We saw Jimmy Graham sort of fade mid to just after the midpoint of the season, and that's when they incorporated Cole Kmet into their system. And I think that's actually made Jimmy Graham better. Yeah. The fact that he doesn't have to be out there for 80-90% of the snaps. He can get out there 50 to 60% of the snaps and be so much more effective than what he used to be. And we've seen him now score in back-to-back weeks.
Oh, no doubt. I think they've leaned more towards 12 personnel now, where Kmet is that blocker. He can still go out and run some routes, but Jimmy Graham is not a true wide blocking tight end. That's not his game at all. He could be more of a big slot. You put him in as a tight end, but he's running routes, and he has those. You create those mismatches with him, and that's the role you need to use for Jimmy Graham. They're not really an 11 personnel spread it out team like Nagy wanted to do. And you get easier and better matchups for Allen Robinson with 12 personnel. I mean, it's worked great for Bill Lazor, and I hope they sneak into the playoffs because I think they can do some damage.
Yeah, this is also a defense that is playing really well and is the kind of defense that succeeds in January football. So, while I don't think that I would actually pick Green Bay to win this game because I still think they are the better team. They still do have something to play for. And we also saw that Green Bay was able to exploit the Chicago defense the last time they played. Right now it's a 5.5 point spread. So the line is actually set at 51 points. I would take the Packers to win, but the Bears to cover, and I think I actually like the over in this game.
Me too. I love the over. I mean, Green Bay's defense has come along nicely. I think Preston Smith's played a lot better. Zadarius Smith has played well the whole year. But this is still a porous run defense. They played great in the first quarter against Derrick Henry and just took him out of the game pretty much, going up by 3 scores right away. But this is still a run defense I don't trust. I still like the Bears to put up points in this game. I like the over. I'll take the Packers to win and cover, but I think it'll be more of a 7-8 point win, not a blowout.
Yeah. But again, we said that the Chicago Bears would be able to sneak into the playoffs with a win or a Cardinals loss. We both picked the Rams, so this may be one of those 7 seeds that backs their way into the playoffs. Next is another one we're not going to have to spend too much time on, and it's the Seahawks at the 49ers. And the Seahawks, they can clinch the number 1 seed and a bye with a win plus a New Orleans loss plus a Green Bay loss. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I said, we don't need to spend a whole lot of time, but right now the line is actually set at 6.5 points. The 49ers have played well over the past 2 weeks. We saw them beat Dallas 2 weeks ago, surprised the Cardinals last week, and Seattle has not always played well in Arizona, which is where this game is going to be played. But I just think that there's too much on the line and this could also be one of those games where they may say we don't need we can utilize this game as our bye week. Just because they know that the chances of them actually getting the number one seed are very low, so they may utilize this as their bye. So I would actually take the 49ers to cover.
I could see the Niners winning this game outright just based on the personnel that plays. I totally agree. I think it's in all likelihood they're going to be the 3 seed in the NFC. They already locked up the NFC West. Russ hasn't looked the same since they really kind of changed the trajectory of their offense. They became more run oriented. They might use this as a reset kind of week. They let him sit on the bench, or maybe they give him a few drives and then they focus on next week. I could easily see that happening. I would stay away from this game from a betting perspective, but in terms there's a bigger picture here. If they're the 3 seed, then they would have to go to New Orleans hypothetically in the second round and play in a dome without any fans. I don't think that's the most daunting task either. So I would not be surprised if they benched a lot of their starters.
Yep. All right. Now we will move on to the Jaguars at the Indianapolis Colts. And this is one we shouldn't have to talk a lot about the actual game. I think both of us are expecting the Colts to win and win big. But the Colts, there's a lot on the line, and a lot can happen with the Colts because they need help. They're the one team in the AFC that is on the outside looking in that still has a chance at a playoff spot. They need a win and one of Tennessee, Baltimore, Cleveland, or Miami to lose.
AFC is stacked.
Yeah.
The wild cards. It's crazy.
So let's see, and then what's also crazy is that they still have a chance to win the division as well, because if they lose and if they win and the Titans lose, and again that's going to be a daunting task for Houston to pull off that upset. But if they win and Tennessee loses, they win the division. So there's a lot on the line, and there's also a revenge factor in this, where earlier on in the season, I mean, it still is the Jaguars' only win of the season.
14 straight losses to Trevor Lawrence, whatever it takes, and they locked in the 1 seat or the number 1 slot in the draft. So good for them. Their future is bright. In terms of the game, if I were to pick a wild card team to lose in the AFC, one of those teams, it would probably be Tennessee. I do not think it's a shoo-in that they just beat Houston. We saw that game go to overtime and Derrick Henry run all over them. But Deshaun Watson is going to give them everything they have. I fully expect Deshaun Watson to dominate and it to be a high-scoring game. But the fact that Indy is on the outside looking in and the year they've had, I mean, I think Frank Reich's done a great job. He's maximized what he has in Phillip Rivers. I think the run game took a little longer to come along than fans would have liked, but now we're seeing John Taylor hit full stride. The defense has not looked the same the past couple weeks as it did the beginning half of the year, but the fact that they might win and not make the playoffs, there's another team I would not want to play. I think this is the kind of team that could give a team like Kansas City some fits. I'm not sure they would win, but they can run the ball, they protect the ball well, and they have a really stout defense, and they have a game wrecker in DeForest Buckner that we've talked about a lot on this podcast. I mean, the fact that they might not make the playoffs, I still think Frank Reich has done a great job there, and there's a great team. Sometimes that happens. You win 11 games, you don't make it.
Yeah, and then there's sometimes that you win 6 and make it. Yeah, it's unbelievable. So we're both gonna pick the Colts to win. But let's see, where I had the line right here. It's 14, and the over under set at 49.5.
I'd probably take the Colts to cover. No James Robinson again. Mike Lennon again. I don't know if Jacksonville is going to score very many points in this game. I'd probably go with the Colts to cover and the under.
Yeah. I echo your sentiments. Then we have the Miami Dolphins heading to Buffalo to take on the Bills. And the Miami Dolphins need a win or a Baltimore loss, a Cleveland loss, or an Indianapolis loss. So there's still a lot on the line for the Dolphins, and I think they're also going to maybe luck into a possible win, because I can see this being exactly the way that the Bills handled Week 17 last year, where they give Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and the rest of the starters a series or two, and then rest them, because they would need to lose and Pittsburgh to win in order to not get the number 2 seed, and we're already sort of seeing Pittsburgh hand the Bills that number 2 seed. So this could very easily be one of those Dolphins lucking into a win, because, and I'm not saying that they couldn't win if teams were at full strength, but they're going to be more motivated to win this game than Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Buffalo doesn't have to win this game, and they get the 2 seed. Sean McDermott has been very quiet about what he's going to do. He said he's going to keep it in-house. Clearly, there's a plan, whether that's playing those guys for a drive or two or just going with the backups from the jump. But I highly doubt we see a full-strength Buffalo team. There's just no point against Miami. Either way, they get at least one home game, probably 2 with that 2 seed, and I don't expect Pittsburgh to win. I wish we were getting a full-strength game, though. I mean, Tua's never played in the snow before. We got the news today that Fitz is on the COVID list. He came down with corona. So we will not be seeing any relief action from Ryan Fitzpatrick to come and save the day. I think this is the kind of game we have to see Tua play in, and it's very likely that if they do make the playoffs, he's not going to play in an optimal weather situation.
Yeah, and he's never had to deal with weather like that in his life.
Hawaii and the SEC.
yeah, must be nice. So I'm going to take right now. It's the Bills are 3-point favorites, which is a little bit shocking, knowing that there is a good chance that they don't play their starters a decent amount of this game. So I'll take Miami to win outright, and I'll. The line is set at 43. That's a tough one. I'd probably take the under.
Yeah, me too. I mean, that Miami defense is still legit, but it's very likely we just see a Matt Barkley Buffalo offense. Right. So I'd probably go under as well.
All right. Then we have the New Orleans Saints heading up to Carolina to take on the Panthers. And this may be one of those scoreboard watching games, because the New Orleans Saints will clinch the number 1 seed, although they need a 3-way tie in order for them to clinch a playoff spot. So they need a win plus a Green Bay loss plus a Seattle win.
Alrighty.
Yeah, so this will definitely be one of those scoreboard watching games. But I just think right now New Orleans, that they still have enough to play for, at least from the start of the game, that I'm not worried about them going to the bench that quickly. It's a 6.5-point favorite. They're 6.5-point favorites. Line is set at 47.5. I like the Saints to cover, and I actually like the under in this game at 47.5.
Yeah, I think in terms of where they are, they're coming off 9 days rest, just beating down the Minnesota Vikings, a historic game from Alvin Kamara. But Drew Brees is still coming back from that brutal rib injury where he cracked 11 ribs and had a collapsed lung. Yes, you want to rest him, but I also think you want to get him up to speed before the playoffs. So I'm not necessarily sure they want to rest him at this time. I think there's still some fine tuning in there, and they're going to be scoreboard watching. This is not a game they want to lose. I think they want to lock up that 2 seed and play at the Superdome as much as they can in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think this may be one of the, if they look up and in the third quarter, the Packers are up 24 points. We're going to see some Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill for the rest of the game, which isn't necessarily an enormous negative or enormous downfall for this offense. So I that's why I still think that that 6.5 isn't enough for me to look Carolina's way.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, and now the final game of the regular season comes down to your Philadelphia Eagles hosting the Washington football team. And if the Giants win, I have to root for the Eagles, and I just vomited in my mouth.
Oh, it's fine. I mean, this is a bad football team this year, not our year. I mean, last week was ugly. That was a really bad second half performance from Doug Peterson, from that offense, and the defense was just carved up by Andy Dillon. And the Eagles already came out and said it's going to be a lot of veterans rest around for some of those players like Jason Kelce, no Fletcher Cox, no Darius Slay. So you're not going to see a full-strength Eagles team deployed on Sunday night.
Oh, well, unless Dallas win.
Well, look, Taylor Heineke. You might be getting Taylor Heineke on Sunday night.
Alex Smith took every snap in practice today, so
yeah. He was a game-time decision last week, so I'd expect him to play, but it's not going to be a full-strength Alex Smith.
No, it probably won't be. Not that we've seen full-strength Alex Smith in 3 years, but
is Terry McLaurin going to play?
Why don't you do a little bit of talking, and I will let you know.
Yeah, so, I mean, Washington did not look great last week. If there's no Terry McLaurin, a hampered Antonio Gibson, he played last week, but he still only logged about half the snaps with J.D. McKissick, and they continue to incorporate Peyton Barber. This offense is not a scary offense to go up against, even if the Eagles aren't at full strength. That's been one of the stronger points of the Eagles, even without Fletcher Cox. Malik Jackson has played a lot better as of late. Javon Hargrave has played a lot better as of late. They have the second most sacks in the league. I still expect them to generate a decent amount of pressure on Alex Smith on Sunday night. I think it'll be a close game. I think it's a tall task for the Eagles to win that game, but I could see them winning. I don't expect Jalen Hurts needing to score 28 points to win that game.
So Terry McLaurin has not practiced at all. He hasn't been ruled out yet, but it's not looking good. And Antonio Gibson also has not practiced.
Yeah, I mean, those are the two biggest hits to Washington's offense, even outside of Alex Smith.
Two best weapons.
Yeah, I mean, it's Logan Thomas after that. It's J.D. McKissick. I mean, there's just not that much there. I mean, I don't even know what the over-under is. I don't even know what the point total is, but
right now, Washington is a 2-point favorite, and it's 43.5.
I mean, I would definitely lean under there.
Yep.
I think Jalen Hurts is going to have his hands full against this defense. And I think this defensive line we saw week 1, I don't think it's going to change in week 17. I think this D line is going to wreak a lot of havoc on this offensive line.
Yeah, I'm also going to lean towards the under, and I mean this with no bias whatsoever. If the Giants win, I will pick the Washington football team to win. Or the Philadelphia Eagles to win. If the Giants lose, I will pick Washington to win. And that is not coming from a Giants fan perspective whatsoever.
I think the Eagles, the number 3 pick is still in play. If Houston were to win, it's technically Miami's pick because of Bill O'Brien. If Houston were to beat Tennessee, the third pick is still
the Dolphins right now are picking 3rd,
and in the playoffs. It's, I mean,
they're
can you imagine giving Tua Jamar Chase next year?
Jamar Chase. I mean, it's Jamar Chase, right?
And they have they have their own first round pick.
Yeah.
So they can get more O-linemen. They can, I mean, who's to say they can't even get Penny Sewell with the 3rd pick? It's crazy. I mean, Miami, that is a scary, scary team for years to come.
If the Jets decide to move on from Darnold and go with a Justin Fields, or if they like a Zach Wilson, there is, or if they trade to, say, an Atlanta, who right now is Atlanta right now is at number 4. Detroit is at 7. Both of those teams could be looking up to move up for a Justin Fields, which would then have Penei Sewell fall into the laps. So they would have traded Laramie Tunsil for
Penei Sewell, another second rounder, another first, and another second.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
And they didn't. Penei Sewell is going to be better than Laramie Tunsil ever was.
And Houston had to make Tunsil the highest paid tackle in NFL history.
Right. Yeah.
The biggest disaster ever. Like the biggest catastrophe of a trade for a franchise ever.
No. That's wrong. DeAndre Hopkins getting traded for us.
Yeah.
For
no,
David Johnson. Right. Oh yeah, that was the same team.
I saw a tweet today, and I don't think I disagree. Have we seen a quarterback have such a dominant performance like Deshaun Watson this year with such a horrible team that might be the 3rd pick? Have we seen a kind of season like that? And I think the first comparison that comes to my mind is, well, Matthew Stafford's career, but it's never been that bad. It's never been so bad where they were just completely irrelevant and just horrible around the quarterback.
I actually watched, someone had posted, it was the full clip of when in Matthew Stafford's rookie year, and he was mic'd up the game against the Browns. And it was literally the full clip from the beginning of the play that he separated his shoulder through the post game celebration and handshakes, and where the camera did not leave Matthew Stafford the entire time, and you heard him mic'd up. And has Matthew Stafford had the career a lot of people thought he would? No, but you're never going to tell me that this kid is not a gamer, and that just watching what he went through on that play, and knowing how much he must have been hurt this past weekend for him to come out after 2 plays, you know something was wrong. But I
think NFL Films voted that as the best mic'd up feature in NFL history in their short time miking people up. I mean, if you haven't seen it, check it out. It is absolutely ridiculous. It is so entertaining and is awesome, and it makes you appreciate just how tough Stafford is. And I think it's a new trend, and it's a new sort of coming to age. I don't know how to put it, but people don't value quarterback wins, and they shouldn't. I mean, it's a team game. It takes 22. It takes a coaching staff. It takes a front office. Football is the quintessential team game. And is quarterback the most important position by far? Of course. But just look at Stafford's career. I mean, it's an immaculate career. He has done everything he can to make them relevant, but it's just a total dumpster fire of an organization. I really need to see Detroit move on from Stafford and put him on a good team. I want to see it happen just for
you know where I would absolutely die to see Matthew Stafford wind up?
San Fran.
Indianapolis.
Yeah, I mean, those are the two best landing spots.
Another dome team. He would have the best offensive line he could have ever imagined compared to what he's had in Detroit, and he has an up and coming superstar with a very similar build to some of the wide receivers he's had success with Michael Pittman. We've seen Zach Pascal over the past couple weeks really emerge onto the scene. They have a Paris Campbell who hasn't been able to stay on the field. If he can stay healthy, he can be a game breaker. Oh my God, you put Matt Stafford on that Indianapolis team. I think he jumps into the top 6 or 7 for in terms of a fantasy quarterback for me.
Well, let's think about this too. So they have a lot of cap room to make this happen too.
Yeah.
So they shipped away their first round pick and got Buckner, and that was a home run trade. Say they do that again, they trade their first, they trade a second and a third for Stafford. They have the money to do that. You look at the free agent class that we have for this summer. If they get someone like a Juju, Curtis Samuel, I expect Godwin to go back to Tampa, Corey Davis, Rashard Higgins, Will Fuller, Allen Robinson, Kenny Galladay. I mean, I'm not expecting them to get one of those big-time guys, but if they got Kenny Galladay at a discount, brought him with Stafford to Indy, you go T.Y. Hilton on the outside, Kenny Galladay, Michael Pittman.
Hilton's a free agent as well. I can see Hilton.
Then they'll probably move on from him. They put Campbell in the slot. Like, whoa, that just became a top 5 offense overnight.
Galladay and Pittman on the two outsides. You kidding me?
Forget about it. They got their tight ends. They have their full arsenal of tight ends. They have Jonathan Taylor. Marlon Mack's a pending free agent, but you draft someone, you make someone a number 2 behind Jonathan Taylor, but forget about it. That's a top 5 offense tomorrow.
Yeah. Make it happen. Go make it happen. Please. For Matthew Stafford's sake. Let him get to
it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he deserved it. All right, so that is going to wrap it up for this week. Make sure you are checking everything out at backsportspage.com. You got Derek's Power Rankings. You got the archives to all of the great shows that we got going up. I know the guys over at the Fourth and Long were on earlier today. The Exit Velo is getting you ready for baseball coming up. And boy, I mean, I don't know, baseball guy?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You see what the Padres did over the past couple of days? I mean,
I think it's them and the Dodgers and everyone else in the NL at least. It's kind of close.
I mean, they turned what was the best farm system into into a Cy Young Award winner and a Cy Young runner-up.
And they already have one of the top 3 lineup in baseball.
Tatis.
I mean, it's ridiculous. And that is, I mean, you're gonna get me going here. But as a Phillies fan, over the past 10 years, our farm system has just been horrendous. Drafted horribly. We go out and spend all this money, and they're a little bit relevant. You get the big splash guys like Real Muto, Harper, blah, blah, blah. And it's fine. They have some really good players. But in order to win in baseball, you have to have some semblance of a farm system. The Dodgers, the Yankees, those guys, those big-time contenders, the Astros, I mean, they built through the farm system. And even if you don't see them come up, you're like the Padres, you can at least trade them for capital for guys who are established. And it's just been really frustrating as a Phillies fan because 2 or 3 years ago, we should have been the Padres if we had drafted properly and stacked up our prospects properly. But now we're the Angels. We have bloated contracts and no young talent to look forward to.
Yeah, and being a fan of a team with a new owner who is now the richest owner in professional
Oh, the
sports.
Mets. Oh, yeah. I mean, they're going to pass the Phillies. Forget about it.
This is a great time to be a Mets fan because we're already starting to see players who are now interested in the Mets because the owner is so committed to winning and being so vocal about winning is the only thing. And if they can somehow land the two names that have been linked to them, which is Springer and Bauer, I think that automatically makes them a legit contender.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think they easily become the NL East favorite tomorrow. It's a brutal division, but I think it's them and Atlanta.
Oh yeah, Atlanta. It pisses me off how good Atlanta is every single freaking year since 1995.
Their farm system every year is top 3 in baseball every single year, and they get these young guys that come up like Acuna, like Ozzie Albies, like Dansby Swanson that come out of nowhere, but they draft so well, and
Swanson pisses me off because they were able to get Dansby Swanson for Shelby freaking Miller. Oh my God, that pisses me off.
And Swanson looked like a bust. He looked like a bust, and he's put it together.
Yeah. Well, let's see. We don't know what the landscape of baseball is going to be in terms of fans, but let's see how he proves himself in front of fans. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Finally, everyone enjoy what should be a really exciting day of football. It's the 1 week of the season where we have 16 games on one day. I'll be glued I'm gotta apologize to my wife, but I'll be glued to the screen for 10 hours. And also make sure you're checking out if you are in a week 17 fantasy championship. First of all, tell your commissioner to stop it. Or if
I have a league like that. Oh, I have a league like that. I'm up by 6. It's a 2-week
playoff. ESPN
I'm up by
league.
6. And I had James Robinson. They're not playing him. Thank God I have no one else, but the kid who I'm playing against has Kelsey and Mahomes. So tough.
Okay.
Okay.
I was able to win my championship on the back of Alvin Kamara and his record-breaking, record-tying performance on Christmas night. Boy, was that was fun to watch.
Just had to give Taysom Hill that touchdown, did you, Sean Payne? You just had to do it.
I hate him. So we will be back on Sunday for Back Sports Page Sunday Morning Fantasy. This week may be geared a little bit towards what we're going to expect next year. A little bit of this week. But also a lot of DFS because this is also one of the biggest DFS weeks of the season because there's so much unknown. So there's a lot of players that you're going to want to find out about who to plug into your DFS lineups. So make sure you're tuning in on Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern to the Back Sports Page Sunday Morning Fantasy. Got Derek, myself, and Tom Bennett. So Derek, enjoy. I will see you Sunday right before kickoff.
I can't wait.
All right. Have a great week, everybody.